Welcome to the Fretboard Journal podcast. I am your host, Jason Verlinde. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have an incredibly cool episode for you today. Emma Harner is completely blowing up on social media. She is this incredibly talented guitarist who kind of combines math rock with folk instrumental fingerstyle guitar. She's doing something totally original, and I'm not the only one who has noticed her. She's got like 200,000 plus followers on Instagram, a whole contingent of followers on TikTok, and a new Substack where she is sharing all sorts of information at no cost. And I wanted to find out a little bit about her. And it turns out that this is the very first interview Emma has ever done. And she did an incredible job. She has been going to Berkeley. We get into that. We talk about growing up in Nebraska. We talk about her guitars of choice, her favorite tuning, and so much more. I think you will love hearing her story. I'm going to try to bring Emma to our Fretboard Summit in Chicago. If not 2025, then 2026 or another one coming up. She's just such a talented artist, and I cannot wait to see where it all goes. As always, our podcast is brought to you by a few brands that love what we do, and I want you to support them all. Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar here in Seattle, Washington, one of the coolest vintage instrument stores around. We're also brought to you by Stringjoy Strings, where if you use the discount code Fretboard when you check out, you can get a savings on your first order. One of the cool indie string companies. I have a new Grez guitar that I'm staring at right now, and Barry at Grez knows what's up, and he's using Stringjoys, as are so many other artisans and luthiers in the know. Last but not least, our friends at Peghead Nation are offering you your first month free with the discount code Fretboard. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you will find lots of familiar faces teaching at Peghead Nation on topics such as bluegrass, Americana, jazz, and all points in between. It's really your roots music portal. I hope you will go check it out and tell them the Fretboard Journal sent you. And again, our summit's taking place August 21st to 23rd. Our entire lineup of luthiers and exhibitors is on fretboardsummit.org's site right now. We're going to be posting some pretty exciting artist announcements very soon, but nab a 3-day pass if you can. As you've probably noticed from prior summits in Chicago, these lineups are one of a kind and stellar, and you won't want to miss it. It's a big guitar party weekend. Love to see as many of you there as we can. And now, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Emma Harner. This was one of my favorite interviews in a while, and I think you will love hearing her story. I am going to include links to her social media and Substack so that you can follow along like I've been doing. Well, Emma, welcome to the Fretboard Journal podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
You are in Boston, is that right?
Well, I live in Boston. I'm in Nebraska right now, visiting home for the month. It's my designated summer time here in Lincoln. So it's very exciting for me because I get to get away from the city a little bit, which I don't really love living in a big city. So, but that's how it is right now.
And I have so many questions for you because I've been following your Substack, I've been following your Instagram posts, and of course, listening to the music you've been putting out. And is Nebraska, is that home?
Yeah, it's where I grew up, in this very house that I'm in right now. Yeah, it's home. I moved to Boston for college, for Berkeley, college music. Yeah, and that's where I am right now, but it's always fun to be home and come home. It's like a breath of fresh air for me.
Is it a farming community or a city, or what are we looking at?
A city. I live in Lincoln. Yeah. It's the capital. I think Lincoln's population is like 300,000, and sorry if I got that wrong to all the Lincolnites out there, but we're big. We have I think 8 high schools now, so okay. Yeah. But what I like about it is that you're never more than a 15-minute drive away from the great expanse of nothingness, of prairie, which is what I really like.
And when growing up in Nebraska did you discover guitar?
Well, this is my parents actually started me playing violin when I was like 2 or 3. Because somebody at the preschool that I was going to was offering lessons, and I ended up taking lessons with her until I graduated from high school. So I was big on the violin. I didn't necessarily love it, but my parents had me stick with it, and I was in orchestras and such, and writing like really bad songs on the keyboard. through that whole process. And then COVID hit in my junior year of high school. And I picked up the guitar a little bit before then, but I hadn't really had time to explore it. And so when COVID hit, all of a sudden it was like, well, what do I want to be doing with my time? I could be doing anything. And I just started playing the guitar and teaching myself that way, just through hours and hours of playing. Zoom school started again, and I was just playing guitar under the desk for hours. I actually delayed going back to school under the pretense that I was scared of the virus, but the real reason was so that I could play guitar for longer instead of going to school. Yeah, and that's kind of where my journey with guitar started in earnest.
That was a nylon string?
Yeah. So I started on my dad's Fender nylon string from the 80s. The story is that he bought it with his first tax return. Okay. So, yeah.
And what, I mean, were you trying to emulate any guitar players out there when you first, were you following anybody, or was it just kind of like, let me try to deconstruct this thing?
Yeah. I, at the time, was a big, and still am, a big fan of Paul Simon and Joshua Lee Turner, this guy on YouTube. They were big in just, I like modal mixture, interesting sounds I really liked. But those two guys even mostly play in standard. I'd heard about open tunings from a friend who plays guitar and tuned to something like open D, drop D. And all of a sudden I was very hooked to that sound of just being like, open D is so great for songwriting at any level, because you can just slide your finger around on the A string or the D string and just make chords with diatonic tensions all the way up and down the neck. So it makes a lot of sense. I don't know, that I got started with that. So I guess the real answer to the to the who was I first inspired by to start playing guitar was this specific friend of mine who was playing in a band. He was playing lead guitar and doing a lot of like half step things that I was just really, really interested by. And I started trying to copy it, and I ended up taking, that sound to a new place eventually. But that's the real reason, I guess.
I mean, this is all so amazing because, we're talking about a 5-year span, basically.
Yeah.
And your playing is at an incredible level already. And so,
thanks.
Yeah. Was songwriting, making original songs, singing along to guitar, was that like an early on thing, or at the beginning where you just kind of like, I'm going to try to emulate folks I've seen online or music I like?
Well, it was always vocals with it for me, because like I mentioned earlier, I started writing songs when I was a lot younger, and they were really just bad. And they were on my little Yamaha keyboard, and I only knew how to play root chord, like the most basic inversions you could possibly imagine. But I was so addicted to songwriting and melody, which I think comes from my being in orchestra, actually playing the violin in middle school and high school. I was in some honors orchestras, and we played stuff like Brahms and Beethoven. And that really got me addicted to melody and what it could do, like the way that melodies can meet and subvert your expectations at the same time. That's what I'm always trying to do with melody, and just like write something that is stuck in my own head. And I only keep it if it's stuck in my own head. So the songwriting thing has been a fixation of mine for a lot longer than guitar has. But the guitar just opened up so many possibilities and worlds for me in songwriting. I just, like, anything that I wrote before I started playing the guitar is like nothing that I would ever use today. It was pretty bad. But since I picked it up and have been playing and learning, just being able to express like thought to what happens on the instrument as quickly as possible now or a lot quicker than I used to be able to, is so important in songwriting, I think. But it's always, for me, come vocals and guitar pretty much right at the same time. I think it would be, and I've seen it in other people, and then in songs that I've tried to learn the guitar parts of and then put the words on top of, that's really hard. I think that's a big roadblock for me and for a lot of people. It's really important when I'm learning something and I know I'm going to be singing with it, to sing at the same time that I'm playing. the part, or at least learn them together. Yeah.
Even in that original like kernel of an idea stage of the whole thing.
Yeah, I'd say that as I get better at guitar, I'm able to write riffs and things before I sing over them. And it's because one of the things that I'm really passionate about is making sure that my vocal line and guitar line mix really, really well together.
Yeah.
So just like melody and harmony, and those two things are fulfilling. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you posted, I mean, for folks who maybe have only seen you on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, you have a Substack that's like filled with tons of information. And one of the things that I gravitated towards or read first was just like, you were like, why I'm not going to cover Nick Drake with my guitar style.
Yeah. That I kept getting comments, you need to cover this Nick Drake song or this Adrianne Lenker song. And for me, I was just like that. The purpose of that is like, I don't know. The purpose of why I do any cover is to give the song a whole new twist. I really like to stay quite true to the melody, the vocal melody, but then reharmonize it completely. When I'm covering a song, I make a big point out of never looking at the chords, never looking at tutorials unless that makes sense to do for what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I would never. I think there's a lot of value in learning a Nick Drake song or an Adrianne Lenker song, and these are things that I've done. Occasionally, I'll learn a song because I want to know how to play it, and I mean, at the end, I'm always a better player for it. But just in terms of this project that I'm doing and creatively like covering these songs and putting them out on YouTube, I don't and short form video. I don't think that covering a Nick Drake song, just playing the exact guitar part or even a different one, because it's already so busy, I don't think that would do anything for me or for a lot of people, or maybe not. I don't know. But the thing that's most interesting to me to do is to find a song that doesn't have a mathy, busy guitar part and give it one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did at what point in like high school COVID lockdown era, like at what point were you like, this is it, I'm gonna just focus on guitar and then eventually get into Berkeley?
Yeah, well, this is kind of an interesting story. So I played guitar for that last year of high school. I was just playing guitar all the time, knowing that I really loved it, but and then kind of knowing that I wanted to do music in the back of my head. But I had a lot of pressure from my parents to go to normal people college, as some of us do. So I actually went to the University of Nebraska for a year before I went to Berkeley. It was basically a decision of, I don't know if I'm ready to leave home. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to doing music, because at that time guitar had only been my life's passion for about a year. And I did audition for Berkeley out of high school, but I auditioned as a vocal principal because I still didn't know. I still wasn't very good at guitar. And I auditioned as a vocal principal with my guitar accompanying me. And I remember somebody in the audition saying, "Are you sure you're not trying to audition as a guitar principal?" And it was that moment of someone saying that to me that I went, wait, that's something I could do? I could do that? So the audition happened. I got in, but didn't end up going because in the back of my head, I was too scared. I felt like I didn't really know what I was doing yet. So that year of me going to the University of Nebraska, playing guitar a lot. That year I was playing guitar a lot, like every spare moment that I had. I was in the symphony, so I was still playing violin. And I joined like a local punk band. So I learned that year how to write lead parts, just very vaguely and generally. Mm-hmm. And I learned that that's something I really love to do is to write lead guitar parts on top of other things. So my knowledge of music was getting bigger. My knowledge of what I liked also was getting bigger. And then at the end of that year, I decided that I wanted to try to transfer to go to Berkeley again. Because in some ways I had decided in my head that I needed to be studying guitar after that year. But I just, I realized that's what I wanted to do and that I just couldn't stay at UNL. So I transferred, and the rest is history. I had my first guitar lesson my first week at Berkeley, and it was very eye-opening. There were a lot of things I was doing wrong. But yeah, that's
But you got into Berkeley as a guitar student with what? Just what you had posted online, and what, or was there an audition process? Like, how does this even work?
Yeah, I hadn't really posted anything online at the time.
Okay.
The Berkeley audition, you can either do it in person or on Zoom, and I did mine on Zoom. It's basically, they get you in a room, that you play a song for them, and you're supposed to play any song that you like to play. They make a big deal out of saying that you need to be playing what resonates with you, or it's not going to come across as genuine. So I played, I think when I auditioned the first time, I played Paul Simon, The Only Living Boy in New York. And then the secret is, if you're a songwriter and you tell them that, you can also play a second song, but it all has to be less than 4 minutes. So I played that one, and then I played a song that I don't even remember what I played the first time. And the second time, I played this song by Joshua Lee Turner, the guitarist, called 319. And then I also played another original song. And I don't think anything happened with that one. That one's lost to time. But yeah, I basically played those. They asked me a couple questions about music theory. I knew a little bit. I didn't know enough. I didn't know enough to like skip a bunch of like regular Berklee harmony and ear training courses, but I knew enough to, get in, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Was that punk band that you played in the first time you played an electric guitar?
Yeah, it was. I had one. My dad got me way before I started playing guitar. He got me one of those Squier mini Stratocasters for my 10th birthday or something. And so it was sitting upstairs. Those guitars really just don't play, is the thing about them. They don't play at all. And so I had sat down with it when I first got it, but I was like, guitar is impossible. I can't play this. Yeah. And then I got another. I think my first real electric guitar was also a Squier Strat, but it was like the Squier Affinity Strat. It was one of those 50s model after versions, and it was shell pink or something with a white pick guard. And I like that guitar. I still have it. But I got that, I think, when I joined the punk band. And then I got my first pedal, which was Joyo Vintage Overdrive. I still use that one. That one's really good. And the rest is history.
I mean, did you have to tame your desire for open tunings and to do the mathy side of guitar in the punk band?
Yeah. Yes. And I pushed them, I think. And this was still kind of at the beginning of my learning what all of this meant, to do open tunings. I think I had them write one song that was in a different tuning, and I wrote some riffs. I wrote some riffs that I was really proud of, but it was mostly standard at that time. I was writing for that band in standard, and then I would go home and tune my guitar to open D. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Are you still playing that Fender nylon string guitar from your dad?
Yeah, I play it. It lives here. I play it whenever I'm home. The thing about it is that it has no truss rod. And so the action is pretty bad. It was very bad when I was learning on it. At one point, I replaced the bridge and the nut, but I didn't do it that well. So the action is still too high. It's lower than it used to be, but I'm not a luthier. I wish I was. That's something that I want to get into during my time on earth, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah, building a guitar sounds like so much fun. I would love to do that.
Yeah. I mean, at any point in the early guitar, were you trying to play classical guitar at all? Or did you just sort of like, I'm going to use this nylon string guitar as like a vehicle to write songs?
It was just that.
Yeah.
And I got to Berkeley and did my they do another audition with you called like a placement audition after you get there, where you go and play some scales for a man usually, and then he is like, this is how you did, and then they put you in classes based on that. And the vice chair of the guitar department at Berkeley, Cheryl Bailey, she had like 10 of us in a room after our round of auditions, and kind of very Sorting Hat-esque. She was reading everyone's scores out loud in front of everyone else, which was kind of that, that threw me a little bit. So, and then she paired us up with people. So she got to me and she read my score. It was fine. I was very average. And then, she asked me what I wanted to do. And she said, I saw here on your sheet that you played an original that the guy who gave your exam was very impressed by. What are you into? And I said, nylon string. That's what I learned on. I like finger style. And she said, okay, I'm going to pair you up with Abby Zocher. So, and then I had lessons with Abby for that first semester. And it was Abby who said, you need to like be doing classical guitar. Full stop. This is what you need to be doing. And she overhauled my finger picking, overhauled my left hand technique also. And it was in that moment where I kind of realized that everything that I'd learned in violin lessons through high school, how to think about phrasing, how to think about technique, how are we moving our fingers, where is the wrist positioned, stuff like that, I always enjoyed talking and thinking about. And Abby brought that into guitar for me. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, this is a study. This is a whole thing you can get into. So, I mean, I went to Berkeley thinking I would come out probably playing like John Mayer or something. But I went in and actually ended up following the classical path, which it's kind of this smaller, tight-knit group of players at Berkeley who play classical guitar, because mostly it's jazz and pop and rock there, which is interesting. So yeah.
And you're not, but I'm guessing most of those people in your cohort are trying to play classical compositions.
Yes, and I did too. I haven't played nearly enough classical compositions, but I've gotten into a little like Leo Brouwer and stuff like that. He's really the only one I can name, because again, it's just been like a couple years of my life, and I was maybe taking one classical guitar class a semester, so it wasn't a huge part. It was a huge part of my playing because I would go to that class, learn about technique, which is a thing I'm super passionate about, go home, write my songs using these techniques, anguish over them until I was doing everything correctly. And that was kind of the experience for me. But it was still, even though I was in the environment of Berkeley where everything's supposed to be music, and it was still my free time where I was doing the most growth, in terms of, well, I guess that's how it is all the time. But a lot of people go home and practice what they're supposed to practice for class.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing that. I was going home and writing and writing and writing, which is how I practice, I guess, just by writing. And none of it was really relevant to the classes that I was taking. But, it all came together in a really nice way in my head.
Because it must also be inspiring beyond the curriculum, just to like be immersed with improvisers and musicians from around the world who are all kind of coming at things from a different angle.
Yeah, I mean, 40%, I think, of Berkeley's student population is international. So learning about different kinds of music, especially being a girl who grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, I mean, I didn't know many people from other countries at all. And now I know many. So that in that way it was really, really cool, especially to look at and get into different kinds of music. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people at Berkeley are really obsessed with like Indonesian gamelan and Indian classical music. So just even to be in the environment where people are listening to that and you're hearing it is really, really influential.
Yeah.
I think.
So it's still staggering to me that you've only been playing guitar for essentially a handful of years. And at what point did you decide to start posting stuff online?
Yeah. So I was putting maybe a couple things up on TikTok, which to me wasn't real. TikTok's not real. People that I know in real life don't follow me on TikTok. Like in the world in which I exist, Instagram is like your resume. It's your business card. If I don't know a person and their name is said to me, I'll look them up on Instagram. That's where everything lives for people of my age, I guess. So I wasn't putting anything on Instagram of that ilk because it was terrifying to me and too real and cringe. So I was putting everything on TikTok, not a lot, maybe one video a month if I just wanted to. And still, it wasn't very good. I've done a lot of progressing in terms of just my guitar work in the last year and a half. So the stuff that I was putting up at that time wasn't getting many views, wasn't doing very well. But I'd say about the same time that I started to maybe get close to the point where I am today, some of my friends had some success on Instagram Reels. And it was just this thing of like, look, I posted on Instagram Reels. You can take it off your profile and it still exists in the Reels tab. And all of a sudden I have 3,000 new followers. And I went, oh my gosh, well, why not? And there was just a moment in my mind where I was like, this can't hurt me. I need to get over, having my Instagram look cool. It would look cool if I had a couple new followers. That would be nice. So I tried it out and I posted that a couple of videos and then I posted that cover of Manchester Orchestra's The Gold. And that was my big one. And that was when things really started moving and like people were coming in droves to my page and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, okay, well maybe I could do this, maybe there's something here. I always had a kind of weird blind faith that I could be a musician somehow, but I hadn't figured it out and it was really scary to think about. But as soon as that kind of happened, I started to go, okay, maybe I could actually make a career out of this. And then I started posting a lot more consistently because I was inspired by the success, obviously, that this was something I could do. And yeah.
Incredible. And at this point, I mean, do you have a strategy? I'm going to post X number of times a week or one cover every month or anything like that? Or is it just kind of like following your heart?
I'm following my heart at this point. There was a period of time where I was trying to post every day.
Oh, God.
And I did it maybe for longer than you would think I could pull it off, like maybe 2 weeks or something. And then it was every other day. And then now it's just, I will go like a week or a couple of weeks without posting. And I think that's the best way to do it for me right now. Because every time I post, I get a number of new followers and it's good to, keep the growth going for business reasons. But I think it's also important to put things out when I'm inspired to do that. But it's got to be a good balance between, promoting new music that I have coming out and then also following my heart in terms of what do I want to arrange today or what am I writing? I'm very trigger happy in terms of right after I write something, I want people to see it, which is it's been a little detrimental to me in terms of people are asking me all the time when X or Y clip of something I posted a year ago is going to come out.
Uh-huh.
And the true and real answer is it's not even recorded yet. It's not even finished writing. So in that way, I have to let people down a lot, but
Are there any songs, existing songs that you're obsessed with trying to cover right now that you can talk about?
Oh man. Usually it happens for me same day.
Oh, wow.
Same day or next day. I'll just sit down I'll get an idea in my head. The last one I did, I feel like was Jigsaw Falling Into Place. I love that song, and I love the guitar part for that song, which is the first one of these where I've been like, well, not really the first, but one of the first where I've been like, I need to actually go learn this guitar part and then make changes where I think might be cool to make changes. So that's what I did. But it all happened, I think, in about 3 hours from the idea of me going, I wonder if I could do that, to video is recorded and posted. So yeah, I mean, inspiration for that side of it, for that stuff, just is super last minute. And I think the one that I did before that was like a Charlie XCX song that I had really been listening to. Brat Summer was last summer, but my Brat Summer is now, is what I was saying. Really, my Brat Summer was this spring. So I did Sympathy is a Knife, which is a great song. I have been obsessed with that song, trying to figure out what it is that makes it so good, because it's the same, I think, 2 chords for the entire song, but there's such a dynamic and tonal shift from the verse to the chorus. And I figured out that even though the chords are staying the same, which I think is like 4 something else, once she drops down to the 4 in the chorus, she's singing the major 7 and the 1. And that's a really delicious sound. I don't know. So just, yeah, that's my Berklee nerd coming out a little bit. But I had been thinking about that song a lot and then going, I wonder if I could cover this in FACGCE, because it's obviously the intrinsic key of FACGCE is C, but the lowest string is the 4 chord. And in this song, when she really, drops the beat, it's on the 4 chord. So the fact that those 2 things were kind of floating around in my head and then they lined up, I was like, this might be really cool to kind of very apropos of nothing cover a song from 2024 hit summer album Brat.
It's awesome. Where you just put out a single, False Alarm. Talk about that.
Yeah. False Alarm was written the first summer after I got back from Berkeley. And it was kind of an exploration of, that tuning I was just talking about, it's in FACGCE. And I was messing around with that tuning a lot. And the song that kind of poured out of me ended up being about homesickness and missing being home, because I didn't really even realize how much I had missed being here until I was back here. I was kind of just pushing it all down and not thinking about it when I was in the city. That first year for me was especially rough because I was in the dorms, and the Berkeley dorms are just fluorescent lit rooms on a city block, and I wasn't prepared for that. Yeah, it was truly like a room and 3 twin beds in that room. And they pair you up with people randomly. So if you don't end up getting along with them, then you don't,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a wake up from Nebraska.
That's true. I mean, I got along with my roommates fine.
Yeah.
But it just in terms of not having any space to be alone, that was my big thing. I needed space. Like there was nowhere where I could go and shut the door and not have anyone able to see me except the bathroom, which was just a little hellish for me because there were practice rooms that you could go to. And that's where I went a lot of the time to write, but they have big windows on the doors. So sometimes there would be tours of people coming through the school to, see what the facilities are like. And they'd just be peeking in through the window like you're an animal in the zoo. Just like, oh, look, there's a girl. And what I always do in a practice room, because I'm insane and crazy, is shut the lights off and sit on the floor, crisscross applesauce.
Okay.
The best way to play guitar for me is sitting on the floor. Chairs and couches just get in the way. I guess.
But it does, the animal in the zoo analogy does work if you're just sitting on the floor without furniture or anything while people are staring at you. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely made it a little worse. I did that part myself.
I think the beauty, and this, I think this applies to everything I've heard from you. The amazing thing about False Alarm is, the guitar stuff is, to use your phrase, very mathy. Like there's a lot going on. But in terms of your lyrics, you're keeping them kind of, you're not trying to be a prog rock artist. Like you're keeping them kind of simple, and that kind of creates this cool alchemy. And, maybe the same can be said of like Blake Mills or some other folks who like aren't trying to write the most complex lyrics to go along with the most complex guitar parts.
Yeah, so real. I think my lyrics, I know that they tend to be heavier in metaphor and vaguer than maybe I would like them to be. But I think part of the reason for that is that I only really am able to write about what I'm processing at the moment. And usually I find I can only explicitly state what's going on in a situation until after I've processed it. So using the song as a means to process something that has happened is just like it. To me, it turns itself into just vague lyrics, but they do end up being like relatively simple, like stating things, feelings. I try to do a nice mix of like imagery and abstract thought and such. But yeah.
Any thoughts of like do kids today even want a full length record, or is it just singles all the time?
Kids today want a full length record if kids today are me. I love full length records. I listen to music in records, which I actually think is a product of using Apple Music instead of Spotify since my music listening journey began, because it was just what my family had. But I really love just the concept of a record and continuity of sound throughout a record, and that feeling of listening to the same set of songs. And the first time you listen to them, you might have a favorite, but the 30th time you listen to them, you have a completely different favorite. In some ways I might have like Stockholm syndromed myself into really liking some of the music that I listen to. I don't think so, but it's true that it takes a lot of listens to one thing to me to really, really understand and parse it. But I love what albums can do in that respect. They're just a whole world that you can dive into, and I am very, very interested in creating one. Of doing that thing and having it be such a thing.
What albums are the ones that, when you think about that, have the biggest impact to you?
In Rainbows, obviously. It's, I think, just sonically the album with the most continuity to me. There's also an album by Gregory Alan Isakov called This Empty Northern Hemisphere that's really big for me. And then there are other Radiohead albums. Like my favorite Radiohead album is either In Rainbows or A Moon-Shaped Pool, because I'm a big fan of songs that it's kind of really antithetical to how I write, but I'm a big fan of kind of soundscapey songs. Like my favorite Radiohead song is a song called Full Stop with only one L. Mm-hmm. My friends and I always used to joke that Full Stop had its second L stolen by K-pop group Billy, which has 3 L's in the middle. I don't listen to K-pop, but my friends do, and I made them listen to Radiohead. So there's that.
There's the revenge. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing about me and albums as well is that since I spend months of my life listening to one album sometimes, I actually haven't listened to a lot of music. Something that happens to me all the time is someone will ask me, have you heard of this? Have you heard of that? And 90% of the time my answer is no. Yeah. So I'm very slowly making my way through all recorded music, and I will never get there.
No, yeah. None of us will. I mean, what would an Emma Harner record, full-length record, would it have that sort of like orchestration, build up layers of like you hear on a Radiohead album, or would you keep it pure and simple in you and your voice and your guitar?
Well, this is a point of contention for people in my comments. I love being in the studio. I love recording and thinking about layering and what could go over something and how to make it sound the best. I'm a big fan of arranging. Arranging is one of like my favorite things to do, obviously because of these covers that I do, but also just in terms of like instrumentation on songs. How can I make it sound exactly how I want it to sound? So a big passion of mine in a full length album would be to have the whole thing happen. And I don't know, I kind of tend to trend more toward like pedal generated God noises as opposed to like orchestration, if you will. I like big string sounds, but there's something that like you kind of lose in terms of intimacy with a big string sound, which I think can be really, really valuable at times when you want things to like open up, and expand. But a whole record that is just like scored and orchestrated with an orchestra for that purpose kind of tends to lose its intimacy with me. So I don't know. I think it would be a mix of things.
And do you, based off what you just said, like, have you gone beyond the Joyo pedal and, are you playing around with Chase Bliss stuff and all the stuff that could create those layers for you without the orchestra?
Yeah, when I'm in the studio sometimes. But I mean, I don't own a lot of these things because they cost a lot of money. And whenever I have money for new gear, I tend to go guitar instead of pedal. I mean, the way that I use guitar pedals is I play guitar for one of my friends, like kind of rock-y solo projects. It's kind of like 90s girl rock fun.
Okay.
And so my experience with pedals is mostly getting that sound to be as good as it can be. So like crunchy pedals. I have this pedal. My reverb pedal is the Walrus Audio Fathom, because it's a reverb pedal that can do a lot. And it has this second pedal on it for sustain, so it kind of works like a piano. In the year that I went to the University of Nebraska Lincoln, I was also an employee at the local guitar center. So I tend to know a little bit more about gear, and without having actually owned a lot of the gear.
Sure.
Like I don't know an insane amount about gear, but part of when I was working there, I was like, I really need to step it up because I'm going to get to Berkeley and I'm going to be like the only girl in a lot of rooms. And all these guys are going to be talking about gear. And I really need to know what's going on. That didn't end up being the case. Actually, I got to Berkeley and I tried to have like gear related conversations. And I'd say probably 30% of the guitar principals at Berkeley are into gear. And the other 70% are like, I don't know, man, I just play it. So there's that.
But you have now an encyclopedic memory of whatever Guitar Center offered in 2023 or whenever that was.
I really do. I really do. Yeah, what everything cost, SKU numbers, passwords. I know it all.
What is your, like, how many guitars are there now at Berkeley with you? And what are your main guitars?
Yeah, so the guitar, my parting gift to myself when I quit working there was a Schecter PT Fastback 2, which is Schecter's Telecaster, because I really liked how the Schecter guitars felt, but I really hated how they looked, because they kind of look metal. I'm not a big fan of flame maple, and I'm not a big fan of no pick guard. Those are two things about me. So this guitar just looks like a Telecaster, but it's a Schecter. It has a glossy finish on the fingerboard and a satin finish on the back of the neck. And I've met a number of people who've played my guitar and said that they can't stand that, but I love it. It slides and then sticks for me in all the right places. So I love that guitar. I have that one. recently Strandberg have sent me a Salin, like their Telecaster model, basically, and that guitar has changed my life a little bit in terms of the neck is insane. It's this patented thing. It kind of looks like a trapezoid, but it has all these basically planes upon which your thumb can exist. And it's one of those things where, you hold it in your hands and it's immediately like, I can tell someone spent years of their life agonizing over the design of this neck. And you can tell when you're playing it. Yeah, and it sounds really good too. So there's that. And then in terms of acoustic guitars, I have my Cordoba C5 spalted maple or whatever. It's just a really standard classical. I love it though. It's loud. It's good. I have a Yamaha CSF3M. It's a parlor guitar in Sunburst, and that's my current obsession. I got it at the Music Go Round here in Lincoln last time I was here. I just picked it up and was playing it, and I became so obsessed with how it felt to play that I had the people at the store actually email the guy who sold it to them to ask what the strings were. Oh. And the answer was Martin Custom Light 11s, 8020s. So they come in like a white package with a blue ring. They're great. I love those. But also they're 11s, but they're on, this guitar is a shorter scale. So they feel more like 12s or 13s even. But yeah, I like that guitar.
And are all of these guitars using non-standard tuning?
Yeah, I mean, the rule that I have for myself with these is the guitars are all set up for standard. I never take any string more than a whole step away from standard. If I wanted to have a guitar that was in something crazier than that, I would probably take it to someone and have them set it up for that. But I care too much about each of my guitars to let it sit in like F, 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 Mm-hmm. And so that basically, yes, I take them down and back and down and back. No guitar that can't handle that has really stayed in my possession for a long time. So
that makes sense. And we dreamed about your full length record. What is on the horizon? You've got one more year at Berkeley?
Yeah. Well, technically
maybe not.
Technically, I dropped out. Technically.
Oh, breaking news.
Breaking news. Technically, I've transferred back to UNL to continue my degree slowly online at my own pace. So one of the things about Berkeley is that they have a vendetta against anyone wanting to go part-time. They just don't let you do it unless you have like a medical exemption, which obviously I don't have. So I really wasn't able to continue to work and do this awesome thing that's happening to me with my career, tour, go places. It was becoming a bit of a problem these last couple semesters. I took last fall semester off for a tour that I was doing in November because I was signed up for classes. I got the offer. I said yes to tour with my friend Orla, and I emailed all these professors like, hey, would it be okay if I missed November? Could I do like online or something? Get the notes from a friend? And the answer was a resounding, no, you can't do that. You just can't. And they don't let you enroll for part-time. So unfortunately, I'm out of the business. I'm still living in Boston next year because I've signed a lease and I am excited about my new apartment. So that'll be like my home base for another year. And then the world is my oyster. Yeah.
Wow. So more content creation, or however you want to call it.
Yay, content. Yeah.
Oh, you're really good at it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes when I'm making stuff, it does feel like, woo, content. Here's something else,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, now that you're free or free enough by Nebraska standards, do you have like tours on the horizon or anything else for 2025, 2026?
working on some stuff. Nothing is announced / solidified yet. And, you never know where the wind may take me. But I've got some things coming up that hopefully are going to be very exciting. Very exciting for me. Very exciting for others as well. Hopefully. But
how many solo shows have you done in the last year?
Well, this is an interesting question. All of them have been opening for people. I haven't had a headline show yet.
Okay.
But I think I did 13 on that run with Orla, and then I did, I think, an odd 3 more. So that's 16. And then I did 10 with her in Europe in March. So that would be 26.
And do you see the effect of all these people saying, who coming to you after you've played and saying, I follow you on Instagram? Do you see people getting out of their homes?
A little bit. It's happening. I'm nervous to do a first run of headline shows because I have no idea who's going to show up. Yeah. I have no idea how many tickets I can sell. And that's terrifying obviously after it happens, I'll know where I'm at. I'll know where I stand. But the people who have come up to me and said, I knew who you were before. I've been following you. It's just so lovely to hear. There was this one girl at one of the shows in Europe, and I was thinking about it, and I think it was Munich, I believe. Yes, but I don't know that for sure. But she was singing all the words back to me from and that was my first one of those. So it freaked me out. And I snuck into the crowd to give her my set list afterward. And I don't know, just be like, you're awesome. Thank you. It was so weird for me. Because I kind of had to look away from her to not freak myself out or stop myself from getting really emotional on stage, because that's never happened to me before. It was a crazy moment. I mean, you hear about it. You hear about that happening to artists, the first time people are singing lyrics back to them and it's super emotional. And I always thought oh, no, it's fine. But it actually was. It was.
That's really cool. Are you still posting on TikTok? I'm a geezer. I'm not on there. So.
Yeah, I am. I'm on there. Things are happening. Everything that I do, I cross post. So if you follow me on Instagram, it's all the same. I'm trying to get my Substack to be more populated with things and more long form, and just kind of move people off of these kind of volatile short form platforms, in my opinion. You never know what's going to happen with any of that stuff. So.
Yeah. And your Substack is amazing. And from what I gather, it's all available. No one has to even give you money. Is there a paywall?
No, there's no paywall.
Okay.
There's no paywall. Not right now. I might add one, but I don't know. It might be a good idea to add one. It's just, honestly, I've been in school. So setting up a consistent content creation schedule so far hasn't been something that I felt like I could really commit to, and before I get into actually having a paywall, I want to make sure that I absolutely 100% can deliver everything that people are paying for.
Sure.
So that's what it is for me. Even if it's just $3 a month or whatever, I really need to make sure that I'm doing that correctly. So that's something that I'm probably going to start doing some extra stuff on there in the next couple months. But yeah.
Wait a minute. It just dawned on me. If you're moving back to Boston, how are you going to graduate from Nebraska?
Well, I'm doing some online classes, okay. And then eventually I'll come back here and do the in-person ones I have to do. It's a whole convoluted mess, but my mom's happy because if I graduate from Nebraska, in 20 years or however long it takes me, I will actually be a 4th generation UNL graduate, which that's big. That's huge. That's a lot of my family that has gone there. And
yeah. Well, that's good. And Boston's amazing. So you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, Boston. I'm not a huge Boston fan. I'm a big fan of the spots in Boston that I like. I'll say that,
Okay. Do you play out much? No, you don't. You said you don't.
Yeah, I don't. Not right now. I play out a little bit with that band that I'm in. But I, for myself and my solo stuff, it's kind of like biding my time, waiting for the right moment for things to happen. But the right moment's approaching.
I love it. Emma, I'm going to include links to everything that we've talked about, your Instagram, your Substack, your YouTube, False Alarm. And you are so inspiring, and it's staggering to me that you've only been at this basically since COVID. So I just have to say that.
Well, thanks so much. Oh my gosh, it was so fun.
All right, that was Emma Harner. Did you like it? I hope you did. Let me know, podcast@fretboardjournal.com. And if you love the show, if you love the eclectic nature and all the discoveries that we share with you week after week, go on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. I would truly appreciate it. Till next time.